Hey there, everybody! Welcome to Fresh Out the Podcast, number one podcast in the world for news that's kind of important. I'm the board game guru, game master extraordinaire, Johananan!
It's me, Casualty CDG co-host of Fresh Out the Podcast and Fresh Out the Box. That's where Jahan and I play tabletop role-playing games. That's like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. We're big-time nerds on the down low. We're big-time nerds. If you didn't know that, because we always talk about video games and stuff.
That whisper was almost getting to like ASMR territory. I'm the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse Drew Munhausen. And yeah, definitely the importance of news that we discuss here is the level of importance is highly debatable, such as this.
I've got an
The,
important one. I've got an
W-
important one.
is it the WWE news? Because I moved it to the top.
It is the WWE news. I felt like that was important enough that we needed to share it now tonight. You know, both of us are wrestling guys, but I don't know. Are you the resident wrestling guy still? Are you still caught up? You still keeping up? Got your finger on the pulse?
I feel like I'm caught up in the business side of it. I am not caught up in the day-to-day, week-to-week storylines. You know, like I'll catch Mania coming up. I'll catch the Royal Rumble. I watch the big pay-per-views these days. I just don't have
Rumble
time as I
was
once
this
did to
weekend.
watch. I used to watch like 8 hours of wrestling a week, and it does not happen anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was watching a bunch, and I haven't been watching as much recently either. But the big news: WWE coming to Netflix, live on Netflix in 2025. And a little asterisk, it may not remain on Mondays. They know that that is a day that competes with football, and so for the first time in what 25 years or whatever, Raw might move off of Mondays.
This is a big deal, not just for WWE, but for streaming in general, because we're seeing a lot of the streamers, essentially the one thing keeping cable TV and normal cable subscriptions alive is live sports and people wanting to get their local TV channels and to be able to get live sports. It's a huge thing, and the streamers know that a big part of finding a way to be profitable or more profitable is by having live sports. And we're seeing that, you know, Amazon Prime's gotten into Thursday night football, and then we just had the first ever playoff football game on Peacock, and there were a lot of memes going around, jokes of like people having to call their parents and explain to them how to download the Peacock app so that they could watch the Chiefs Dolphins game that was a Peacock exclusive football game. And the NBA rights or TV rights are coming up soon, and that's going to be a huge deal to see what standard that sets moving forward. But Netflix getting WWE is them kind of moving into the live sports realm. I mean, I know that WWE is sports entertainment, and there's different debates there, but I mean that's what they're getting into, right? This is live programming on their
This
process
is
on
super
their streaming
strange to
service.
me. You know, they once upon a time had Lucha Underground. It was packed full of talent. It was kind of a strange show. It wasn't live, but it was a wrestling show owned by Netflix. They had their own everything. I think if they would have given Lucha Underground another 10 years and made it a live show, it would have been a huge deal. And I think it's kind of weird that they, you know, cut Lucha Underground, waited a few years, and then paid, Lord only knows how much money they paid for this, for Netflix and WWE. I haven't seen, have you seen the total yet, Drew? Have you seen the budget for it or just the news that it's happening?
There is. Are you talking about the money behind the deal? This is
Yeah,
a
I'd love to
five
know how
billion
much
dollar
money.
deal over 10 years.
Ugh, $5
Yeah,
billion deal over 10 years. Good on
yeah.
them.
They're essentially. Let's see. SmackDown's shift to USA in October is part of a 5-year deal worth approximately 1.4 billion. This deal for Raw on Netflix is for 10 years worth 5 billion,
So
which is just
SmackDown goes
insane.
to Prime. Is that what you said? SmackDown to Prime and
It will shift to USA.
USA. Okay.
Back to USA?
They always go back to USA. They know where they can get their money. That's Poppy, man. Poppy USA's got that Poppy money.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is pretty crazy. So they have it for 10 years, like already set in stone?
That's what I'm seeing here.
See, that's the only way
So-
that's the only way you can really get into bed with Netflix. You have to guarantee that longevity because they just throw shit in the grave so early. So that
Well,
would be
honestly,
my only
I think
concern with this deal. So
I think this is great for WWE because you're looking at a new management team that pretty much took over in the middle of last year. You know, all new ownership, all new management, and what network do you have to sell it to? You know what I mean? And it's going to be all full of who's going to buy your program. Are you going to lose money now that Vince is not running it or isn't attached? Where do you stand in the market? So I think this is a great deal for WWE to sort of validate. There you go. To sort of validate how much they paid for WWE. They're getting a pretty quick guaranteed result of their money back, and that's without T-shirt sales or without toys or any of that other stuff that WWE makes money on. Just the Netflix contract, I think they've already, they already probably broke close to even with whatever Endeavor paid to buy it in the first place.
yeah, because the $10 billion is just for the broadcast rights, right?
I believe so. Well, it does say this. I'm looking at the ESPN article about this. It says, as part of WWE's deal with Netflix, the streamer plans to develop scripted television and films from the wrestling promotion's intellectual property. So it sounds like there's some other room for them to do other projects. However, SmackDown will be on USA, and it's unclear, but it seems like the pay-per-view live events are still going to be part of Peacock and NBC Universal. So I don't know if things will shift over to Netflix at some point. This deal is for Raw, which I mean, that's kind of what they've had, right? Like WWE Raw was on USA, but USA is under NBC Universal technically, but then NBC Universal and on Peacock had the tab for all the WWE content, but then SmackDown's been on Fox. And is going to shift back to USA. So yeah, they've always kind of done what they needed to do to make money because WWE's TV rights have still been very profitable for advertising and everything there. So Netflix is paying them a premium to put it on their service because I assume that there will be ads likely as part of the ad tier of Netflix. If you have the non-ad tier of Netflix, I don't know how that still works. Do they still show commercials during it? I don't know. That's all kind of new territory. It remains to be seen come 2025.
In order for this to be, I did some really simple math. In order for this to be profitable for Netflix, they have to get a little over 6.5 million subscriptions from this a year in order for them to break even. But since they have 260.3 million overall right now, it's not that far out of the realm of possibility. So yeah, it might be a decent deal.
I was actually thinking about this.
One of those things. Go ahead, Drew.
Oh, I was just going to say, Gary, like you'll kind of relate to this. I was thinking about this today, how WWE has been kind of ahead of the curve with a lot of these things, interestingly enough. Like back in 2014, I think, it might have been earlier, but I think it was 2014 is when they had the WWE Network, which this was before all of the different streaming services came into existence, right? Like Netflix was still big at that point. I think Prime Video was kind of becoming a thing, and we maybe had versions of the HBO app like HBO Go. But that was really about it. And WWE jumped on getting their own streaming service early where you could get on for $9.99 a month. And you got all their backlog of shows, pay-per-views, all the current pay-per-views were streamed live on their app.
All of the old territory stuff too, not just WWF, but all the every territory that they purchased.
If you were a wrestling fan, it was a huge value, and NXT was exclusively on that too. And they had that for a good while and really transitioned their pay-per-views from being, pay-per-view events that you bought through your cable service to being on that app. And then I think they quickly realized, I think they realized early too where streamers were going or how everybody was starting to get their own. And they said, okay, we need to pivot. And then they pivoted and they shut down WWE Network and put all that content on Peacock, which was smart. They kind of piggybacked there instead of having to do their own and burning money. And then they still had their profitable TV rights. And then now here they are signing a deal with Netflix, the biggest of the streamers, and a deal worth $5 billion. Like, seems pretty smart.
And just for Raw, right? Just for
Yeah,
Raw. We're
yeah.
not talking about their whole backlog, and we're not talking about the premium live events in SmackDown. So I looked this up, John. You did your simple math. Endeavor purchased WWE for 9.3 billion. So this $5 billion deal for Raw covers half of that purchase already. So if they can get, half that much for
$10 billion
SmackDown or a
deal.
quarter that much for NXT, then they'll really be looking good. They'll be coming out ahead with these shows by the end, I think.
I thought it was 10
And then the
billion.
merch. So 9.3.
Yeah, he said half of
is
that. He said half.
Oh no, I thought the Netflix
Oh.
deal was 10 billion.
Oh, no. It's
Netflix-
5 billion over 10
it's 5.
years.
Okay.
So yeah, so they're recouping half their money on their budget,
Then my math
and
might
all
be
they
bad.
have to do is, yeah, and all they have to do is hang out with Netflix, and that's not going anywhere. So smart business move. Way to get some of that money back and build your brand. Good job, WWE. We'll see what that holds. I like this Triple H era of WWE. They're trying to do something different, I suppose, which I like.
That news had broke super early this morning. We're recording on Tuesday. And then not long after that, there was a live stream of the Oscar nominations being unveiled that I tuned into this morning. So that's the other big news of the day, which I know I'm the kind of the resident Oscar guru on this show, and I've had Drew's Oscar Corner here. There are plenty of good podcasts and in-depth analysis on the Oscar nominees that are out there that I highly recommend you seek out, because there's some interesting conversations to be had this year. So instead of like jumping into right now of like, oh, the snubs and surprises, which there are a few, like notably Margot Robbie was left out of Best Actress for Barbie, and Leonardo DiCaprio was left out of the Best Actor race for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Greta Gerwig wasn't nominated for Best Director for Barbie. There's like a few snubs and surprises like that. That being said, I feel like a lot of the nominees that ended up getting in over some of the people that were snubbed were some fun ones and some good ones. So that being said, instead of jumping into the ins and outs and a deep analysis, I'll just say that I like a lot of these nominations. I think that the Best Picture race this year is really strong. Like, most of these movies are really good. I'll read these off: American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. A lot of these I've talked about on the show in Oscar Corner. Some are more recent, and because of our year in review and looking at the year ahead episodes that we've done, I haven't gotten to talk about as much like Poor Things and American Fiction, and I can't remember if I talked about Anatomy of a Fall. All of those are movies that I really like, but this is a really, really strong lineup, and I think looking to be kind of a fun Oscar race, although it is still looking like this is the Oppenheimer year. Oppenheimer has the most nominations of any other movie, and I really think it could be sweeping a lot of the more production focused one or crafts focused awards, and then Best Picture, Best Director, maybe Best Actor. We'll see, and supporting actor as well.
So I was curious, just the curiosity in me. Did Ryan Gosling get nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Barbie? And he did.
He
so how absolutely on point that it got nominated for Best Movie,
yeah.
but the director and the star were not nominated, but the dude,
Well,
the patriarchy, was nominated.
Yeah, they're women,
How
so
absolutely
obviously.
so on brand for the movie, dude.
I don't know if the,
if I
the
was him, I
critics
wouldn't
really
go.
watched the movie.
If
it's
I was
worth
Ryan
noting-
Gosling, I would not go to the Oscars this year.
It's worth noting that America Ferrera was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Barbie, which was like a fine performance. But it's still kind of surprising that she's in for supporting over Margot in for Best Actress, and even Greta for directing. There was an adapted screenplay nomination, which that's been a whole conversation as well, because they recently announced that Barbie would not be competing for original screenplay. It would be for adapted screenplay, I guess, because it's based on a doll, but there's no existing book or anything like this is adapted from. It should be original, but I digress. It's been there's always the Oscar pundits having all kinds of conversations and having a field day with this kind of stuff, but it almost sometimes feels like that's why they do these things, so that we have something to talk about.
Because they're big jerks.
Jeez.
Martin Scorsese's the oldest director nominated, oldest ever to be nominated for Best Director at his current age, and it's his 10th nomination, I think. It's 10th or 11th, I can't remember the exact number.
That's a good thing they couldn't fit Greta Gerwig in there, and they're giving this guy another one. That's good news.
Yeah, but you got Justine Triet, or actually it's probably Justine Triet, who directed Anatomy of a Fall, who's a female director that did make it into Best Director, and that was a nice surprise, and that movie's very good. I recommend I can't speak today, Academy Awards, Anatomy of a Fall. I really enjoyed it. It's a great kind of courtroom drama that it leads to some interesting conversations once you've seen the movie. I highly recommend Anatomy of a Fall. So that's the thing, is like you get some exclusions, but then that leads to some fun nominations in their place for some of these categories.
I'm gonna stay salty about Barbie though, just for the record. Stay salty.
I'll allow it, Jahan.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I mean, like, Margot Robbie not getting back Best Actress, okay, I guess. I didn't see all the other performances, so... And hers wasn't, out of this world. It was good, but the director, I think the directing, Greta Gerwig absolutely should have been nominated at the least.
And she is nominated, she and her partner Noah Baumbach wrote this movie together, so they're nominated together for adapted screenplay, and I think that there's actually a pretty good chance they might win that one, which is great. It gives them an Oscar.
It's a real consolation prize after what she did, though.
Fair. That's fair. And it could win some of these, costuming, production design. Like, there's a lot of things that I still think it's very much in the running for. But I know that I feel like most of the conversation going on right now in the Twitter sphere and film Twitter is about Barbie. Barbie's at the center of a lot of it, and if it was appropriately snubbed, if this is just a huge tragedy or what's happening here, and I think that it's probably somewhere in the middle. So
fair enough.
Yeah, so that's the Oscar nominations. They will certainly be coming up more as we lead up to. I think the show's not even until March, so it's going to be a topic of conversation for a long time. And then I did have this on the notes. This does kind of feel like old news at this point, because it was only last Thursday, but gosh, that seems like a year ago now. Is the Xbox Developer Direct? I don't know if you all tuned into this or if you just kind of caught up with it afterwards.
I watched the whole thing.
Yeah, what'd you think, John?
I thought it was good. It was a little drier than the Nintendo ones. Nintendo tends to throw a lot at you. And they really highlight a lot of indie stuff and that kind of thing. This was really just these games. They only had one surprise game, but I believe that it was predicted that there wouldn't be any. But there was one. There's Visions of Mana. That one was a surprise show off.
If you were a fan of traditional JRPGs and a fan of the Mana series, it is a big deal that this was showcased during an Xbox show, because none of the Mana games have been on Xbox consoles, and I'm very excited for this.
It looks
this is
pretty
arguably
cool.
Some of the most exciting news for me coming out of the show.
I mean, so they went over Avowed, they went over Hellblade 2, they went over Aura, History Untold, and they went over the Indiana Jones game. And all of them were very strong showings for sure. Avowed wasn't really on my radar at all until this, and what I saw I liked, and I will definitely be playing Avowed. I'm correct in assuming all of these are Xbox games, like first party, so like they're Game Pass, right? Day one,
with the exception of the Mana game. That's not first party, but I kind of. I'm not sure if them showing it in as part of this means that it's coming to Game Pass on day one. That would be a huge get. All
It would
four
be
of these
huge,
other
yeah.
games, though, will absolutely be Game
See,
Pass.
and that's
day
huge,
one.
man. Avowed looks good. Like we are getting some good day one drops here. Hellblade 1 was a fucking masterpiece. It was completely wholly original, beautiful game, excellent combat. Hellblade 2 looks even better. It has some strong story elements. It looked beautiful. The combat looked just as fun as always. A real catch here. And then for me and Gary, Ara History Untold is a big get. It is a spiritual successor of Civilization. We've seen them come and go before with like what was it, Mankind? I think it was called or something like that.
Yeah, man, it's really hard to watch these 4X kind of games come out. Even the Dune one, where they're trying to be Civ, but they're trying to be something on their own, and they just missed the mark. You know,
They missed
Civ
the
has been
mark.
around for 20 something, almost 30 years. I think Civ has been around at this point, and there's a reason. They're cooking with hot grease.
Yeah.
Usually, these Civ-like games are fun for a little bit, but they're just not Civ. But we always want to be surprised.
Yeah,
We're
always
always
want to be
optimistic
surprised.
that
Ara looks good. Ara does look like it might fill that void until we get Civ 7. I'm excited to play for sure. And then Indiana Jones honestly wasn't something I was excited for after watching the gameplay and stuff. I think I'll play this game. It looks very fun.
Very excited for this. I have to admit, I was surprised that it was first person. I just kind of assumed an Indiana Jones game was going to be third person. However, when you know that Machine Gun Games is behind it, who's done the Wolfenstein games previously, it kind of makes sense. And I started thinking about it more. I'm like, Indiana Jones, it's a period piece, Nazis, and then they've previously done Wolfenstein, which is an alternate history World War II thing. So there's probably a lot of assets from Wolfenstein games that could be reused in an Indiana Jones game, it started to all make more sense as I thought about it. But Jahan, you first noted, because you watched the trailer before me and you thought you were a little underwhelmed by the graphics. So I was nervous when I watched it. I watched it after the live stream when there was a 4K trailer that had been uploaded, and I thought it looked amazing.
Yeah.
So
Graphically, it does look great. The thing that bugged me was specifically their faces when they talked. I didn't like it. It was upsetting to me. It was Uncanny Valley kind of stuff. But it wasn't bad. It looks up to snuff graphically for the most part. Especially in motion, gameplay-wise. Gameplay looks great.
I agree about some of the faces, but I thought Indy in particular looked really good. And it was kind of staggering at first because it's, even though we just got Dial of Destiny this year, you've got this young Harrison Ford face looking at you. And then Troy Baker, who's like one of the goats of video game acting and mocap, is playing him. And I never realized how much Troy Baker's natural voice kind of sounds like Harrison Ford a little bit. So he's very naturally sounds like Indy. Maybe I'm too lax about it. There might be a lot of more work going into that than I realize, but it comes across so natural, and that's probably part of Troy Baker's talent. I thought that was really, really well done.
What about you, Gary? What did you think about these games?
I'm actually looking at the Machine Games game history, and I'm not feeling very confident. They've been doing the recent Wolfensteins since 2014, not like the classic Wolfenstein.
Yeah, the Bethesda
I guess
ones.
they got it at some
Yeah.
point.
The Bethesda Wolfenstein games, though, are so good.
Yeah.
I hated Wolfenstein Youngblood. That's the only one I tried to get into.
That one was,
and it's one of their more recent ones.
That one was more
Isn't
of an
that one-
offshoot, I believe.
I was gonna say, isn't that one kind of a spinoff or
It's
a
like
DLC?
those Assassin's Creed Stories kind of situation where it's like an offshoot, I think. But I see what you're saying.
But I would expect it has a very similar game engine as the other ones. And the game just played terribly. I hated Youngblood, and it was totally turned me off to modern Wolfenstein. I wasn't looking to play any other ones. And then I see after Youngblood, they've done Quake and Quake 2 that came out in 21 and 23. And I've got my finger on the pulse for when games come out and they're fun and they're multiplayer and they're shooters and people are playing them. I haven't heard about Quake or Quake 2. These are not things
These
that
were
are on,
re-releases of the original ones.
they're not on my radar, man.
they
No one's
re-releases?
talking about this. So then you've got Indiana Jones, and I'm just, I'm not stoked on the studio. I'm not totally feeling it. And on top of that, I'm not a huge Indiana Jones fan. I do think the game looks visually cool. I think, like Drew said, seeing the young Harrison Ford in action is actually really awesome. There's something super nostalgic about that. And even the cover of the game, it harkens to the Indiana Jones covers, and it looks like it belongs in the series. It looks like if you don't play the game, you'll be missing a chapter
Looks
of
like it
the Indiana
belongs in a
Jones
museum.
story. Well done. So
Thank you.
so that's what I think is cool. Is it looks like it's almost part of the story that as a fan you probably want to experience. I like that. The other
Just
one,
to correct myself
Avowed.
earlier, I think I kept saying Machine Gun Games, but it is just Machine Games.
Machine
I don't know
Machine
why I
Games.
was making that mistake.
The Disavowed or Avowed, whatever it is, that one does look dope. It has always looked dope, and
Looks sick.
that's for sure something I'm going to play. We're looking at third quarter of this year, but again,
fall.
I don't try to get hyped on these things because release dates move, and what they show in a trailer is not necessarily the game. So, some of my favorite games are free games, and they're sleepers, and you never see them coming. Like Deep Rock Galactic, you know what I mean? It's a $20 game that nobody saw coming. So I'm more looking forward to what this year has as far as that's concerned. What are this year's sleepers going to be? What are the free games going to be that no one's talking about? They're going to totally sneak up on us. Nobody
Already been
saw.
one. We're going to talk about it later.
I was going to say nobody saw the phenomenon of Palworld happening. We'll talk about it later, but those are the kind of things that I really like as a gamer. The Xbox Developer Direct didn't really do much for me. Every time Xbox puts on a show, I'm just like, Fable? Where's Fable? Haven't you guys been working on Fable?
Give me
with
Fable.
every
Yeah,
time they
Fable.
don't announce it, every time
And
they
see,
don't
I
announce
also
it,
feel
it's
like you're
another
kind of-
show that was a letdown.
I feel like you're playing into what I said last time about this, though, when we were teasing this show happening, is like Xbox fans are really bad, I feel like, about getting ourselves hyped up unnecessarily. And I feel like this developer direct, they did a really good job of setting the expectation and what it was going to be. So like there should have been no expectations going into this of like a Fable or something popping up like that. That would be my argument
But
to your point.
There is a studio somewhere working on Fable. How cool would it be to just see some like concept art sketches, just some stick figures or something that are like, these are from the Fable art book, and show like 10 seconds. And that way we can all lose our mind. You don't have to show gameplay, you don't have to show the engine or anything, but
It
you
just
know what your
becomes
fans
a,
want
like
to
a
see.
lose-lose situation in a way, because I think that they're taking tips from the Nintendo school of announcing games, which is smart. Which is Nintendo has gotten really good about they only announce games when they're pretty close to coming out. So a lot of times they're not even announcing games until they come out in 3 or 4 months, or maybe at the most 6 to 8 months away. And Xbox and PlayStation both in the past have been really bad. Take Wolverine, for example, right? Like we got a Wolverine teaser for the PS5 game. Like it's probably been 2 years now or so since we saw that. And like that game's not even coming out this year. Who knows if it'll even come out in 2025. Hopefully it does. But it's just, you either announce things way too early and then people get annoyed that they're having to wait too long, or you withhold information and then people get mad that you're not sharing more. So it's kind of like, it's clear that Fable's not coming out in 2024. So I would assume they're just waiting. We got the cool teaser last year during the E3. Well, there's no E3, but that time period,
the
their
not
Xbox
E3.
game showcase.
If you only got one of the games that were announced for free, which one would you want? You had to
Indiana
pick
Jones
Indiana
for
Jones?
me.
I think I would
that
pick
game?
Avowed.
Avowed. Yeah, and then there's the other one, the Aria, right?
That's that'd be the
Aura.
other one for me.
Aura History Untold, but I wouldn't pick that one because, like we said, these
They're hit or miss.
These 4 games, they're hit and miss. Yeah, I'm with you, Jahan. I think I'm going to go with Avowed. That's going to be the one that I'm excited for.
Fortunately, we get them all, but I was just curious.
And we'll see if it comes out this year. I would make a fresh prediction and say it will not come out this year.
Avowed?
Avowed will not come out this year.
Gary
It's my
says
fresh
Avowed
prediction.
will be
It not come out.
delayed.
Jahan, while I'm adding this to the predictions, will you double check to see if if they officially dated it, because I think Avowed. You're saying Avowed will not come out this year, Gary?
Correct. And it says on Google, on Wikipedia, the
Avowed
game is
launching
scheduled for
fall
release
2024.
Q3, Q4 2024.
I think, yeah, well, it remains to be seen. But I feel like they wouldn't have shown it in this capacity if they weren't confident. But we will see. I do think most of these are supposed to come out this year, and to Game Pass. And if games like Avowed and Indiana Jones and Hellblade and if everything comes out this year as planned, it's going to be a really cool year for Xbox exclusivity because. I feel bad to even say this because I'm just adding fuel to the fire in the console war, which is something I adamantly don't like doing and typically argue against. But PlayStation's future of this year is like they've got a Final Fantasy VII remake sequel coming out in February that I'm really excited for. It's one of my most anticipated games of this year. But like that's pretty much it as far as PlayStation exclusives on the horizon this year. We just got Spider-Man 2. Back in October, and I mean, there's other than Final Fantasy, there's no big first party exclusives that are announced for coming out this year. So Xbox is looking to have a really strong 2024 by comparison.
We can only hope. Drew, talk about movies.
All right, so that's it. So that was our fresh news of the week. We'll transition into some fresh movies of the week,
Movies.
This is a rare thing for me to say, guys. I haven't been watching as many movies recently. Been watching a bit more TV. Part of that is because we are truly in the midst of Dumpuary, which I don't know if you both are familiar with the term, but Dumpuary is typically the stretch of January and February where we're in the post-holiday time of movie theaters. It's not a... There's not as much heavy traffic to movie theaters during January and February, and so it's typically the time of year where studios say, that shitty movie we have sitting on the shelf, yeah, just toss it out there in January. Like, just put it in theaters. So there hasn't been too much coming out, but I have caught a few of the movies that are new in theaters over the past couple weeks, and where we haven't been doing our typical fresh movies because of our top 3 lists we've been doing. So I'll just go through these really quick. I did see Night Swim, which this is the new Blumhouse horror movie about a haunted swimming pool. Have y'all seen the trailers for this by any chance?
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Pretty good. It sounds good.
Here's what you can do, Gary. Go onto YouTube, Google the trailer for this movie, watch the trailer, you're set. You've seen one of the better sequences from the movie. You see what the movie's trying to do.
Cocaine Bear. It's better on paper than it is when you actually watch it. Yeah, okay.
There are some good pool sequences in the movie, but I feel like it is a PG-13 horror movie, so they do what they can with it. But there's this... It's one of those storylines you could pick apart so easily and nitpick. I had an okay time. It's not a very good movie.
The internet does not like it. 4.9 on IMDb, 22% on Rotten Tomatoes, 66 on Google. Just not very good. The internet doesn't care for it.
On the contrary, I saw The Beekeeper, which this is a new Jason Statham action movie. Kind of in the vein of John Wick, but takes itself even less seriously than that. And I'm not gonna lie, I had a really good time at The Beekeeper. I like for a nothing movie in the middle of January. I thought it was way more fun than it had any right to be. Josh Hutcherson plays the villain in this movie, who had just recently returned to the big screen in Five Nights at Freddy's.
I love Josh Hutcherson, dude.
I just now almost mistakenly said Freddy Got Fingered, which is an entirely different movie than Five Nights at Freddy's.
Not entirely different.
Josh Hutcherson could play you in a biopic, Drew.
Oh man, that'd be awesome. I wanted to play me, but
do I have PETA energy from the Hunger Games?
You do have PETA energy if you could lift anything.
I'm nodding my head for those of you who can't see. Yeah, you do. He kind of has your same squared jaw. He looks a little like you. He doesn't look just like you, but he could play young Drew in a biopic.
I want to be annoyed by this, but like I think you guys are right.
Oh
That's
no,
what's
I
making
love
me
Josh.
so
Josh.
upset.
I unironically love Josh
There
Hutcherson.
there could be way worse picks than this.
Yeah,
man.
dude. No, you're a winner in this, buddy. Like ever
Okay,
since I
okay.
saw Future Man, I was sold on Josh Hutcherson, dude.
That series good? I haven't seen that series.
Oh boy,
No.
go watch it.
No,
Go watch it.
no.
Then the other one that I caught in theaters
best.
recently was Mean Girls, which this is a get ready for this. Mean Girls is a movie musical adaptation of the Broadway musical of Mean Girls, based theaters
nice.
recently. 2004 movie Mean Girls, which is based on a self-help parenting book about raising teenage girls.
Same.
So it went book to movie to Broadway musical to movie of the musical. That's where we're at now with Mean Girls.
I like that. That's good.
This
We're a
Mean
weird
Girls-
country, you know.
Oh, I know. This Mean Girls musical was actually developed as an exclusive for Paramount Plus. It was supposed to be a direct-to-streaming movie, and they smartly pivoted, because they want to actually make money. So they decided to pivot and put this movie in theaters, and it's been doing really well in theaters, considering there's nothing really coming out for the next couple weeks, and so it's just on path to dominate the box office for right now. And I would say the Mean Girls musical is pretty fun. If you listen to the music, there's like at least one or two bangers in the musical. I haven't seen the Broadway musical. I did listen to the soundtrack a little bit. The songs from the musical or from the Broadway version are way more upbeat and fun. I feel like they're all a little bit toned down for the movie, and maybe that was a purposeful choice that was made to transition this movie from a Broadway musical to a movie. But Tina Fey does reprise her role in this. She's one of the creators of the original movie. It was a key part of it, and Tim Meadows is also reprising his role, and then everybody else is a lot of young up and comers that are in this. But Renee Rapp, I think she's very popular amongst Gen Z. I'm a little bit too old. I think she's kind of a big deal amongst them, but she plays Regina George in this. My main problem was I feel like the original Mean Girls, regardless of your stance on it, is kind of iconic in its own way, at least for our generation. And it also had Lindsay Lohan and Rachel McAdams and Amanda Seyfried and like some people that ended up being pretty big stars, even though they all had different trajectories. And I feel like this one does not. Like, there's nobody that came out of this movie. I was like, oh man, that person is a huge star, with the exception of maybe Renee Rapp. So it's okay. It's fun enough, but it's gonna do well in theaters, and I'm glad it's in theaters and not just stuck on a streamer. So that's it. That's my dumpuary roundup of the movies I've caught in theaters recently. I did also catch
a dumpuary.
Sure did. I also caught Dumb Money. I've been wanting to watch this for a while. I didn't get to catch it in theaters back when it came out back in September. But this is the movie directed by Craig Gillespie that's about the GameStop stock drama that took place back in I believe in 2021. Does that sound right?
When that shit happened in real life, I laughed and laughed and laughed.
It has a huge ensemble cast, like Paul Dano, Pete Davidson, Vincent D'Onofrio, America Ferrera, Myha'la Herrold, Nick Offerman, Anthony Ramos, Seth Rogen, Sebastian Stan, Shailene Woodley. Like, this is a huge cast of characters in this. And it does, because it hops around a lot of different people that are all having their own storylines following this stock drama. But Paul Dano plays Keith Gill, who's kind of the like Twitch streamer who kind of led the charge here, and he's Paul Dano's always very good, and this movie's pretty solid. Like, I feel like they do a pretty good job of really explaining the stock stuff that happens, but not over explaining it for people that maybe aren't familiar with stocks like myself. And it's a pretty fun movie with a big cast. I enjoyed it. I think it's going to be on Hulu or something soon if it's not already. I think it might be on Hulu now.
Do they ever call
Uh,
them stonks?
Oh, it goes into the Reddit territory hardcore. Like
Nice.
the Reddit plays a big role in this movie, and
Good,
cat
because it
memes
played a
and
big role
stonks
in
and
real life.
like these strange ape memes. I'm not in like stock exchange Reddit hell. Like it seems like a disastrous
Stonks. Yeah.
place from the outside, but it did result in this incredible story, which is pretty cool. So yeah, Dumb Money. I recommend it. I thought it was pretty good. And that's actually it for my
That's it
fresh
for
movies of the week.
movies.
We can jump
Let me
into
talk
fresh
about
TV, in which I will let one of you lead this category.
Yeah, let me talk about some fresh TV. Today I was actually watching some Netflix, flipping around, and I came across a show called The Wrestlers. Actually, I found it last night, but I didn't start watching it till today. And it's a docu-series about Ohio Valley Wrestling, which I had no idea that was even a thing. For those of you who don't know, Ohio Valley Wrestling was the developmental territory for WWE for like decades. And then they created their own center in Florida. But guys like John Cena and Brock Lesnar and Batista and Randy Orton, all of those guys came through Ohio Valley Wrestling. And now it's owned by none other than the legendary Al Snow from the WWE Attitude Era, the guy who had the mannequin head. I was a huge fan of Al Snow. I like his hardcore wrestling. And watching this particular series, watching wrestlers is a lot of fun. They're showing the wrestlers, behind the scenes. They're showing the business behind the scenes. They're talking about how the business is just, losing $30,000 a month, just, flopping, just hemorrhaging money. And so new owners come in and buy it. And of course, that shakes up the whole thing and people are pissed off about it. And everyone's really candid and really honest. And it's cool to see them all talking, about the business. I love wrestling and I love the business. So it's a really cool show for me. If you guys are into wrestling, behind the scenes stuff and production and all that, check out Wrestlers on Netflix. It's cool, man. I also have been watching Arcane, which I did not like the first time. The League of Legends show on Netflix. The first time I watched it,
I recall
just
John being
super
a
not
big
in-
fan of this one.
Oh yeah, I loved
Yeah,
Arcane.
I'm pretty sure Thomas liked it, and I'm pretty sure Connor liked it. So we know people who liked it, and I just did not. I was not feeling it, and so I recently put it on again to give it another shot. And for whatever reason, I like it a lot more this time.
Okay.
I think the first time the prequel stuff just really threw me off. I just wasn't ready to see the characters as kids. I wanted to see the story I was familiar with, the characters I'm familiar with. I don't want you to take me back in time 15 years and introduce characters and then kill them because that doesn't matter in the long run. So I was, now that I watched the first 5 episodes and then they flash forward, they bring you to sort of the modern League of Legends time. And maybe that's where I should have started watching it the first time. Maybe I would have had less complaints. But now that I have watched it, I'm totally into it. I kind of like the background for the characters. I'm not even sure if they needed background, just awesome action. But I've been watching Arcane. I'm going to finish watching Arcane. I just feel in my bones. I feel in my stomach, in my bones. There's an Arcane season 2 coming soon. I don't know when
Yeah,
it's
season
supposed to
2's been
happen.
announced coming soon. Yeah.
Is it coming soon? Yeah, I
coming
can
soon,
feel
yeah.
it. You know what I mean? I don't know when. So get caught up on Arcane. If you're into that, you should. It's cool. Get through the first 5 or 6 episodes because they're all just plot. It's just building plot for what's going to happen, and then they flash forward and the big event happens. So if you can get through those, the show gets really cool. Recommend Arcane, even though it's not totally new.
It's one of my favorite animated
And then
shows.
John and I, we have a shared one now, dude.
We have a shared
kick
one,
this
yeah.
one off, and I'll jump in if I need to.
I watched Delicious in Dungeon. It is an anime that takes place in a fantasy world with, leveling up and magic and questing and all that kind of video game nonsense, but as a real
and
world.
It's weird, and it might be a video game too. The way that they talk
I don't
about some of
know.
the things, it's not particularly clear, but it is a cool setting. How many episodes have you watched?
I just watched the first one. Yeah, I think it qualifies as an isekai because that just means like other world or whatever. But yeah, it's got the video game logic. It's a cooking show, so this is a food anime. Food animes are pretty common They exist. It's a whole genre. But what sets us apart from other fantasy animes is that they're not just fighting stuff to fight and level up. They're fighting stuff to eat it. Like, they're trying to get food. They're poor. They're trying to make their way through this dungeon, but they don't have any money for food, so they have to start resorting to eating monsters.
It's like a D&D party type of situation. There's a fighter, there's a rogue, there's a girl who's a wizard. They come across a dwarf who just swings an axe like a maniac and knows how to cook some food. And they're just so
chef.
poor. Their party is so poor that they can't afford new gear or food. So the leader decides that they're just going to have to eat everything they come across. And so it's kind of like watching a fun anime Dungeons and Dragons show, except you know that they're going to eat whatever they're fighting.
They eat a lot. They eat like 2 or 3 meals an episode. There's a lot of food going on.
Really reminds me of a Zack character in D&D. Something he should have been doing this whole time was, eating the monsters we fight and prepping them up like a proper chef would, because that's a lot of the comedy in the show. Is like, how are they going to eat that? Like, why are they going to eat that?
Dude, they were getting fruit from one of the flowers, and they're like, it doesn't eat corpses, right? It's like, oh no, they just fertilizes the roots, and then it throws up a corpse, and the girl's like, oh no, like, it's got a lot of that kind of stuff. It's a fun anime. Check it out if you like fantasy anime. It's worth a watch. It's not for everybody, but it is good.
Here's something really weird about Delicious in Dungeon. It is coming out as a weekly release on Thursdays. That Netflix is releasing them current, weekly, one at a time. They didn't dump a whole season of an anime on here. So it's almost like something that Netflix spent money to develop, and it's good. I really recommend Delicious in Dungeon. If you've been thinking about watching it, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's a little better than you think it is. A little better than I thought it would be.
It is better than you think it is, yeah, for sure.
That's it for me for TV shows.
That's it for me, too.
Well, I had a few shows I wanted to talk about. The first is True Detective Night Country, which this is season 4 of True Detective, which is, an anthology series. And there's 2 episodes that are out on Max or HBO right now so far this season. And it has been really solid. I really enjoy it. Gary, I'd not recommend it for you. It's probably for obvious reasons. That being said, the setting for this season of the show is in a fictional town called Ennis, Alaska. So, and I believe they actually filmed most of it in Alaska, so the snow and everything is real. And also, they're at a time of year in the series in this town where it just stays night, which is really interesting. Awesome. For the setting of the show and what's happening. But the general plot involves 8 men from a research station that they're out there in Alaska have disappeared, and trying to find out where they are and what happened to them.
Have you ever seen 30 Days of Night, Drew?
I have not.
You ever seen 30 Days of Night? All right.
It's a vampire movie that came out in 2007, and it takes place in Alaska, and the sun goes down for 30 days, and the vampires just siege this rural town out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah, this is the
awesome
Josh Hartnett one. I've heard of this. No, I have not seen it.
You gotta watch it. It is a classic vampire movie, dude. It's the shit.
I don't even know if I mentioned.
That's what you're reminding me of. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. I don't even know if I mentioned Jodie Foster stars in this current season of True Detective, who I like Jodie Foster a lot. And so it's been really good. I think that the mystery of the case really ramped up in episode 2, and so I'm just really enjoying this season of the show. So that's a show that's in progress, and I'm sure I will talk about it more as it goes on. I'm going to mention really quick Ted, the series that is now on Peacock. This is based off of the Seth MacFarlane, Mark Wahlberg movie of the same name. The teddy bear Ted that has come to life, voiced by foul-mouthed Seth MacFarlane. Oh my gosh!
So before you give me your take on it, this is one of those things that I don't think anyone asked for, and I don't think it needed to be made. So, all right, now that I've got that off my chest, let me hear your take.
So the premise for this is it's basically taking the, Mark Wahlberg's character from the Ted movies and going back to when he was a teenager in high school, and Ted, had only come to life a few years prior, but it's all about their friendship and making it through high school together. And it's filmed kind of like an old school 90s sitcom, sans live audience, like a Full House or something of the sort. Like it's like a family comedy.
I've seen
like family only in the sense of it's about a family, because the content here is not family appropriate.
Yeah,
Ted
I've seen
is
clips. It looks really funny.
It is pretty funny. Like there are some jokes that land. There's a lot that don't. The episodes are a little long for this. Like I feel like they should be 22 minutes long, almost like a sitcom, but some of them run like 40, 45 minutes long, which is a little lengthy for this show and what it's trying to do. If you were a fan of Seth MacFarlane and his comedy, which like I know y'all are big Orville fans, but I think that one takes itself a little bit more seriously. But if you like the Ted movies and you like Family Guy and you like that sense of humor, you'll probably find things to like here. It's set in the 90s, which I feel like kind of gives them an excuse to dive into some of the comedy that is like now a little bit more no territory, because like in the 90s it was a different time period and what we allowed and made jokes about then. And there are characters that will try to correct Ted and tell him why he shouldn't say and do these things. And there's like a lot of that kind of back and forth banter. So like some of it is smartly done. Some of it I'm like, did Seth MacFarlane just set a show in the 90s to give him excuse to do comedy that's like not really suitable for today's times? Like, I don't really know.
Don't even get me started. That's how I feel about Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon. Is I'm like, why are white people making these movies, just exploiting Indian people still to make movies? There's still some exploitation there. So I know what you're saying about the 90s comedy. It's like, you're just trying to, using it as a way to get away with some of the words and some of the language weird. You shouldn't be using. You're hiding behind a thin veil of hate.
Yeah,
but then,
Leonardo DiCaprio.
But then sometimes when that comedy
Come at
is
me, bro.
executed well, like it is funny. But then there's other ones where I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing, So it's just varying degrees of success. There are some bits that work, some that don't. Episodes are a little long, but if you like, Seth MacFarlane's humor and it's something you can throw on, like
Gary,
you kind of know what to expect if you've seen the movies.
Guess who the dad is in the show?
I already saw it's Gordon.
It's Gordon from Orville.
Yeah, it's the pilot.
Yeah,
he's
the pilot,
also
yeah.
the voice of Steve in American Dad.
Oh no, really? That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Is that why Steve's good at singing? Because he's a singer? That's funny.
And
I feel like he was the voice of Cleveland. And I think he's the one who stepped down for a black voice actor to step in.
Oh, interesting. Scott Grimes is his name. Does that sound right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I believe that's him.
So that's Ted, the TV series. That one is streaming exclusively on Peacock. And then actually the other show I'm going to talk about is a Peacock exclusive. And Gary, I would recommend this one for you as somebody who enjoys reality TV like I do. This show has been a huge pleasant surprise for me. I did not see the first season of The Traitors. The second season just premiered on Peacock. There's only 4 episodes available as of right now. The cast of The Traitors is made up of all reality stars, folks from shows like Big Brother, Survivor, Bachelor, Bachelorette, Love Island, lots of Real Housewives.
Yo, the host is Alan Cumming. I love Alan Cumming. He played Nightcrawler and Professor Floop in the Spy Kids movies.
I'll get to Alan Cumming here in just a moment. This show takes place like in a giant castle in Scotland. And the premise is they're all living in this castle together, but 3 of the people have been secretly designated as traitors. the rest of the people are known as the faithful, and the faithful do not know who the traitors are. And the traitors meet every night and choose somebody to murder off in the cast, and to, in quote, murder. And that once somebody's murdered, they are eliminated from the show. And then it's up to the rest of the faithful to get together and try to point fingers and figure out who the traitors are. And they, in turn, then banish somebody from the house who may or may not be a faithful person. So I love that premise.
This is just that this is that werewolf game that everybody plays at conventions. It's just they changed it and turned it into a TV show.
Yeah,
what is it, Werewolf Among Us?
Yes, very, very similar. How the traitors operate in secret, but I'm interested to see where the strategy of this game goes. And then Alan Cumming hosts the show, and he is just so I listen to a podcast called Blank Check. It's a movie podcast that I really enjoy, and there's a common story that they bring up on that show that I'm going to retell here because it's totally it totally applies to this show. Which the story that they tell on that is that apparently during the filming of Thor, the movie Thor, directed by Kenneth Branagh, in directing a scene with Ray Stevenson, who R.I.P. Just passed away this past year. Ray Stevenson, who plays what's his character? Is it Volstagg? He's one of the Warriors
Volstagg.
3 in Thor. And apparently there was a scene Kenneth Branagh was directing, and Ray Stevenson said something like, "I'm scared to dip a toe into the river of ham here," as far as like scared to be too hammy or too over the top. To which Kenneth Branagh replied, "I want you to bathe in the river of ham. It's a wonderful place. I've been there many times before. Like, bathe in the river of ham." I bring that story up to say Alan Cumming is bathing in the river of ham in this show. He is just playing up every moment. He makes me laugh constantly because of how seriously he takes it, while also being like in his character as like the host and proprietor of this mansion. He is incredible, and he's always wearing like these insanely amazing outfits throughout.
He is
Alan
just Cumming, and I have this idea that those outfits, I think he just owns them. I'm not sure if he has. I think so. He's something else. I think he's one of our greats who is overlooked right now. I think Alan Cumming is really just he's been fantastic, doing fantastic performances for us our entire lives, and gets pretty little recognition. He's sort of that guy.
He's great in this show. And so like, if anything, I recommend this show just to watch how Alan Cumming hosts this show, because it's incredible. It's incredible. So there's all these reality stars in this cast, but Alan Cumming is the true star. But that being said, a lot of the reality contestants that they've used here, especially from the competition shows like Survivor and Big Brother, are true strategic players. So they have a really solid cast here, and this show has been really great so far. I'm really enjoying it. There's 4 episodes on Peacock now, but that's The Traitors season 2. And that's all I had for Fresh TV.
I was watching a little bit of The Trust on Netflix. I don't know if you've had a chance to check that one out yet. It's a reality show where there's like 11 people, there's 12, and they start with $250,000, and if nobody goes home, they split it evenly. And at the end of every day, you get to vote in secret if you vote somebody home. And if anybody has majority, they go home. And that's just that simple. And so you can like block and save people every night. There's like a different twist to it. So if you're, into those kind of reality shows, they're all living at one house, right? Some big mansion somewhere. There's people from all different backgrounds. There's like a 70-year-old woman there. And so it's all about trust. Everyone's telling each other, look, nobody vote anybody off and we all get the money. And it's like, cool. And there's a small click on the side like, yeah, but let's vote that guy out of here, on the real. So it's fun. If you like reality shows, it's not the greatest thing ever made, but it's watchable.
Great stuff. Are we good to move into
take us to games?
Fresh games?
Games? I love games. Well, I see one here that rips off my culture, so I'm not going to talk about that one. But Gary, me and you've been playing a game. It's the biggest game around right now. It's by a lot. We've been playing
We probably
Palworld.
put we probably put like 30 or 40 hours into this game.
Put a
The
lot of
weekend
hours
it
in
came out.
already. Palworld, for those that don't know, it's known as Pokemon with guns. More accurately, it is a survival game in where you can catch monsters, pocket monsters, if
More
you will.
accurately, it's Ark
It is
and it's
Ark.
Dragon Quest.
If you don't know what Ark is, yeah, they say it's Ark and Dragon Quest mix. If you don't know what those are, Ark is a survival game where you have to build shelter, craft items, gather
And
resources,
Dragon
eat
Quest
food.
is the game that Pokemon stole all of their stuff from.
Yeah, and Dragon Quest it's a monster fantasy battle game from like way back in the day from Japan. But yeah, so Palworld is Pokemon with guns, and you build bases. Right now, currently, you can have on console, you can have 4-player co-op. Playing with your friends is the way to do this one. It was kind of boring when I first started by myself, but once I got friends in there, it was a blast. I don't know that I've ever had this much fun. It's so fun. You just run around with your friends, catching Pokemon, shooting Pokemon with guns. Some Pokemon can shoot. They're not called Pokemon. They're called pals. Some pals can shoot, explosive eggs out of their butt. Gary has a Pokemon a pal that does that. He just runs around shooting egg butts all day, and you can ride them as mounts. You can ride flying mounts. You can use them as gliders. You can put them to work mining for you in your base. You can set up your base so you have a bunch of people like gathering wood, cooking food, all kinds of stuff.
We set up one base that had a bunch of like giant stone turtles with spikes on their back, and all they do is just crush rock and crush ore. And so we have like a little duck who walks around picking everything up and putting it in a box. And other than that, it's just these giant turtles crushing rocks. So if we never need ore, we just go out to that mountain where they're all working, pick up our ore, and go back home. It's kind of cool. It's a lot like Ark and all these other sort of survival games. The thing for me, it was super hot the first weekend. It was cool, and it's always cool to see and catch new Pokemon. You know what I mean? But that effect is going to wear off once once you've seen them all. That's going to go away. Once you explore the map, there's a lot of huge open areas where you're obviously supposed to build a base, but there's not much else going on over there. The assets to me feel like they're like 15 years old. It really feels like a 15-year-old game, just sort of polished up and came out at the right time. It's not a
Yes.
AAA title,
Absolutely
and
not.
I think that in the long run, this game will be remembered as fine. I think I'm already over it. I think I'm already over Palworld. Like I said, we put in 30 or 40 hours in the first weekend. I really saw what there was to see. And I think I'm good. I think I'm ready to go back to some other stuff already. It was a phenomenon. It was crazy how many sold. 1.5 million concurrent players on the first weekend. Over 5 million copies sold in the first 3 days. It's insane. It put up crazy numbers. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure it's for me in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised by that. You don't like survival games, so it's not very surprising at all. But also, yeah, this game is a brand new game preview. It's not even fully released yet. It's not a finished game by any means. And you can definitely tell a lot of it. There's some glitchy stuff, there's this and that. But for what it is, man, it's really fun, and it really took the internet by storm. People are having a lot of fun with this. You can just do a lot, and you can do a lot with friends. And that's all that really matters when it comes to games. Yeah, we all had a blast, and it's very fun. And you should check it out. It's free on Game Pass right now. Yeah, Palworld.
Just one game that I have been playing recently, which is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Excuse me?
Prince of
Jahan is
Persia.
the Prince of Persia.
I'm the Prince of Persia. That's right.
Okay. Anyways, I subscribed to Ubisoft Plus a couple months ago when the new Assassin's Creed game was coming out, and I've kept that subscription because not long after that was when the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora game came out, which I had started playing a little bit. And then 2 days after I started playing it is when Baldur's Gate was released on Xbox. So the Avatar game didn't stand a chance. But I needed a little breather from Baldur's Gate 3.
The whole gaming community said that Avatar game was basically Far Cry with more berries.
Yes, that's very, very accurate.
Far Cry with more open spaces and less to shoot. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yes, totally. Very pretty, but yeah, lack of things to do in my brief time with it.
That game died so fast.
I still have my subscription, and a new game came out this month called Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which is a 2.5D side-scrolling game, like Metroidvania style Prince of Persia game, and it's really good. like shockingly so. I'm not the biggest Metroidvania fan, but when they have really, really good controls and abilities, I think they can be very, very fun. And this is an example of one that's done really well. And of the games that I've gotten as part of the Ubisoft Plus subscription, this one's easily the best. And it's has just really surprised me at how good of a time I've had playing it. I'm like maybe 15 hours into it or so, and I'm like barely even halfway through, which is pretty lengthy for this style of game too, but it hasn't gotten boring. It stayed fresh. The combat's really good. And if you are into this style of gameplay, I highly recommend it. It's probably the best Metroidvania game I've played since the most recent Ori and the Blind Forest game came out. I tried to play Metroid Dread on my Switch, which is a game that I liked, but it's just a little bit less accessible when compared to something like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Like Metroid Dread's a lot more difficult and takes a lot more, I don't want to say a lot more skill, because that's like you can just say get good, but it's just, I don't know, something about that game is difficult but not always fun, which is my big issue with it. So this one is
you tried getting good.
See, that's what I said. But yeah, this one's
difficult,
been good.
But not always fun. Sounds like marriage. Am I right?
That's pretty good.
Thanks, John. No, dude. Actually, people over here are laughing really hard. It's crazy over here that you guys just didn't even realize.
The live studio audience that Gary performs in front of every week.
You guys didn't know I had a live studio audience on my side. I'm making a lot of money off this. I charge $25 a ticket. I got people sitting out here.
Dang. You can quit your day job, dude.
This is my day job. Why do you think I only work part-time?
Oh, shit.
That's all I had for fresh games. Do y'all have anything else? Or do we want to give them fresh picks?
I want to talk about fresh picks 100%.
Fresh picks, fresh picks, fresh picks.
Fresh picks, fresh picks, fresh picks, fresh picks.
My fresh pick is Palworld. I had a lot of fun playing this game with my friends. It was cool. I hashed a lot of Pokemon, and it's an interesting game that killed a lot of time for me and was very fun. So, yeah, check it out. It's free.
On Game Pass. Palworld came out at the right place at the right time. I think if this would have come out, maybe around the time Baldur's Gate came out, this would have been nothing. It would have been super forgettable, and it would have died. I don't think it has staying power, and for that reason, my fresh pick of the week is the finals. I've still been playing the finals, and whenever I'm playing Palworld, I want to go back and knock down buildings and shoot people and play with friends. I like the way that the finals works. It's a fun, free, competitive shooter, and if you have two friends and you guys want a party of three, it's the game to play.
And my fresh pick of the week, I actually, full transparency here, I had True Detective written down as my fresh pick of the week, but then I feel like as I was talking about different things, the thing I got the most passionate about was The Traitors, and I realized how much I just really like that show in hindsight, so I've changed mine. I'm going with The Traitors as my fresh pick of the week. The reality competition series on Peacock. Watch The Traitors. It's super fun.
I'm going to shoot straight with you, Drew. I'm going to be 100% honest. When we get off this podcast, I'm going to go watch The Traitors. This is the kind of energy you have. This is what I'm going to do. I'm watching this, and we're going to talk about this.
What I'm doing, but that's okay. Hey, that was fun. I hope you guys liked it. Was that it for everybody? You guys all checked out?
It is. That's it. That's all I got.
That was a fresh week, guys. All right, hey everybody, thanks for
Send it all
listening
in there.
to Fresh Out the Podcast. This has been the Board Game Guru Game Master Extraordinaire Johananon coming at you from the radio.
It's me, Casualty CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Podcast and Fresh Out the Box. That's where we play tabletop role-playing games. So if you want to watch us play games and do silly voices and be characters and make either good, bad, or medium decisions, you should check us out. We have a Twitch, twitch.tv/Johananon. We're on YouTube. That's Fresh Out the Box TTRPG. We have maybe 600-ish followers now across our platform. So we're feeling good. We're on fire, man. We're crushing the thing. So if you like games, check us out. Otherwise, we will see you here every Tuesday night we record, and we ship out the episode hopefully every Wednesday where all podcasts are sold.
I am the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen, and thanks again for listening to episode 116 of Fresh Out the Podcast.
Stay fresh!